focus. Ideate, innovate, enable. Muskaan Dreams, in partnership with Global Digital Alliance, Digital Inclusion Summit 2024.
The Digital Inclusion Summit, an initiative by Muskaan Dreams and the Global Digital Alliance, is an annual gathering that transcends borders and ideologies with a clear vision to bridge the digital gap for 120 million students. The summit featured distinguished panels of speakers who brought their diverse expertise and leadership to the forefront of discussions.
I would like to welcome each one of you in the summit, where we are actually, it's not just an event, but we are gathered here to building a movement towards, bringing equity in terms of digital equity, the education, the bringing tech to the classrooms, and making schools future ready, making the government teachers future ready, and our children future ready.
It is now time to welcome our keynote speaker, Mr. Abhishek Singh. Ladies and gentlemen, Shri Abhishek Singh, Additional Secretary, Ministry of IT and Electronics, is here with us.
Technology is here to stay. Technology is something that has been adopted well by Indians across. We may think that the urban schools or public schools have greater access. Yes, they do have greater access. But in order to ensure that the rural schools also benefit that, the government and in partnership with organizations like Muskaan Dreams, and there are several other non-profits who are working in this sector, we need to ensure that each and every child gets access to the right technology, gets access to the right device, gets access to the right content, and also is able to kind of explore what is possible. Thank you very much for having me here today. Thank you.
The next session, titled Leveraging AI, an emerging tech to improve students' learning, deliberated on harnessing the power of artificial intelligence and emerging technologies to enhance and optimize the learning experience for students.
We have been firm believers in the power of technology to democratize the quality of education. And I lead our work in EdTech, and I firmly believe that children who go to government schools and affordable private schools need EdTech more than anyone else. Because all the constraints around teacher capacity, resources available in school, capacity of the parents to help their children are limited in the context of low-income children, and hence technology can play a great leveler.
Building this digital capability in alignment with where the markets are headed and preparing people to address those challenges. So one of the things that I find interesting about what organizations like Muskaan Dreams is doing is that when you teach children how to code, you're not actually teaching them how to code. You're teaching them how to think about solving a problem.
The generative AI, the ChatGPT and all of that has kind of opened up new vistas now. There is so much of help that you can get in writing your reports, your projects. Collaboration has been made easy through several virtual AI-led platforms and forums.
The next session, titled STEM and 21st Century Skills, Key to a Future-Ready India, highlighted the significance of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics education, coupled with the cultivation of 21st century skills in preparing the youth for a rapidly evolving future.
Today our topic is to talk about how do we enable more girls to take up STEM as a career.
Other reason why we need more girls in STEM is also from an equity lens. And when we kind of link it back to the SDGs, for us to achieve the SDGs, it requires a lot more new research to happen. It requires a lot more new innovation to happen. And where that is happening are the STEM fields. So if we don't have enough women getting into STEM fields, whose problems are we going to solve for? Whose voices are going to get heard in those spaces? I think that lens is also very important to apply along with the economic lens of why we need more girls in STEM.
If there are marginalized communities who don't have access to school, how could you still go and be teaching them STEM? So we have associated ourselves with Agastya International Foundation, where we have mobile vans that go into the urban slum communities where students are taught STEM concepts over a period of time.
Everybody can't afford STEM-based education also. It is, bit expensive as well. When you can't, have money to pay for the transportation, how can you, ensure access to education, STEM-based education for such kind of girls? So, there are numerous, challenges which I think we are trying to address by supporting various kind of, initiatives.
You need to somewhere make quality as the cornerstone or of all the effort that we are putting in there. And there are a number of entities, government, communities, corporate, all of us are making our own effort, but all of us are also making our effort to strengthen the stereotype which is there. So somewhere we need to also change our approach to ensure that you need to treat them in a way that they start questioning you.
The next session titled Role of Government in Prioritizing Digital Inclusion in Education underscore the government's responsibility in spearheading the integration of technology within the education sector.
How do you look at universalizing? And the two binding constraints from all the research that we are learning seems to be a combination of pedagogy and governance. So how do you sort of do that with government, with the non-profits and CSRs playing a role, but also like the key player, which is the governments, and how do you sort of include them? So we're going to touch upon some of that.
I think clearly, from a government's point of view, scale is very important. We cannot ever get away from the question of scale. We cannot get away from the question of equity, and therefore digital divide for us is a very big challenge. And I think so. I think those are really the bigger issues that we talk about when we're discussing this in the policy space.
Actually, we have to come up at a consensus कि क्या अगर ये काम प्लान किया है, कोई प्रोजेक्ट किसी तरह से हम डिजाइन कर रहे हैं, तो उसका इम्पैक्ट किस तरह से जज होगा. तो इस तरह के कुछ पॉलिसी के काम होने बहुत जरूरी है. That is what I think.
I think there's a problem with language. I think there's also a problem with stereotypes. We come in assuming that the government doesn't know, doesn't care, and will not do. And I think that has shifted tremendously over the past few years. And as he mentioned earlier, the problem is scale. See, we go in with the perception कि हम छोटा काम करेंगे, हमारा success हुआ, we will scale it easily. And then we criticize the government when they are unable to scale. But the problem is we can't scale either. So clearly we're missing something in the language of the expectation.
The next session that is coming up is going to involve teachers. So we have an interactive session, and it goes like this: the unheard voice, tales of digital impact.
निष्ठा, अगर मैं आपसे समझना चाहूँ कि मुस्कान ड्रीम्स का जो प्रोग्राम है वो एग्जैक्टली क्या क्या करते हैं आप लोग स्कूल्स में?
जो हम करते हैं खासकर मुस्कान के साथ इन यूपी, हम एक्चुअली वहाँ पर कोडिंग ICT स्किल्स पे बहुत ज़्यादा फोकस करते हैं. फ्रॉम एक्सेस इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर टू टीचर्स की ट्रेनिंग टू एक्चुअली उनको स्क्रैच पे कोडिंग सिखाना, कैसे वो कर सकते हैं, प्लस एट द एंड ऑफ द प्रोग्राम उनका शोकेस होना, हैकेथॉन टाइप्स ऑफ इवेंट्स करना कि वो कैसे अपने कोडिंग स्किल्स दिखा सकते हैं. तो मैम, मैं आप लोग में से किसी एक से, प्रियंका मैम, आप अगर आप शेयर कर सकती हैं कि आपके हिसाब से क्या लगता है कि टेक्नोलॉजी का रोल एजुकेशन में क्या है?
हमारे स्कूल में जो डिजिटल एजुकेशन का कंसेप्ट जो स्कूल में लाया वो मुस्कान ड्रीम्स लेकर आया है. मैं बहुत तहे दिल से शुक्रिया करती हूँ मुस्कान ड्रीम्स का कि वो मुस्कान के लिए तालियां मुझे. हमारे यहाँ डिजिटल टीवी बच्चों के लिए लगा है, और जो एक गवर्नमेंट स्कूल में होता है ना कि बच्चे स्कूल रेगुलर नहीं हो पाते हैं या बच्चों का बहुत इंटरेस्ट स्कूल के लिए नहीं बन पाता है, और बहुत सारे रीज़न हैं उसके, हम सब जानते हैं. उनकी फाइनेंशियल कंडीशंस होती हैं, उनके घर का बैकग्राउंड होता है. लेकिन ये डिजिटल डिवाइस जब से हमारे स्कूल में आया है तब से बच्चों का इंटरेस्ट स्कूल में बहुत बढ़ गया है.
दूसरा, मैं थोड़ा लेंस चेंज करके मैं बच्चे से एक टीचर पे आना चाहूँगी. मैं जानना चाहूँगी कि आपको इस प्रोग्राम के थ्रू आपके अंदर क्या चेंजेस दिखाई दिए, क्या स्किल्स अगर आपने सीखे, कुछ चेंज आया आपकी टीचिंग में?
पहले मैं अपना फ्रैंकली स्पीकिंग बताऊँ, मैं मतलब मुझे बिल्कुल भी बहुत ज़्यादा मैं यूज़ टू नहीं थी टेक्नोलॉजी से, लेकिन कोविड के बाद में, कोविड के टाइम में हम लोगों ने काफ़ी कुछ सीखा घर पर रह के, और अपने आप को इम्प्रूव करने के लिए हम लोग ये सारे काम घर, मतलब आप समझिए कि सारे डिस्ट्रिक्ट में अलग अलग बैठे हुए टीचर्स थे और वो बच्चों के लिए कंटेंट बना रहे थे, अपने टीचर्स ट्रेनिंग के लिए कंटेंट तैयार कर रहे थे, तो एक अपने अंदर जो इम्प्रूवमेंट आया है ना, वो बहुत सेटिस्फैक्ट्री है।
मैं जानना चाहूँगी कि अगर यहाँ पर जितने भी लोग बैठे हैं, अगर आप उनसे कुछ कहना चाहेंगे कि आप चाहते हैं कि टेक्नोलॉजी आपके लाइफ में कैसे आए, क्या आए, तो ये क्या कर सकता है आपके लिए? आप क्या चाहेंगी ज़्यादा टेक्नोलॉजी से?
मैम, हम लोग कंप्यूटर पे या लैपटॉप पे एप्लीकेशन लिख सकते हैं, लेटर लिख सकते हैं, ऑनलाइन भेज सकते हैं, या तो फिर स्क्रैच पे जाके ब्लॉग बेस्ड प्रोग्राम पे जाके बर्थडे थीम बना सकते हैं, उनको भेज सकते हैं जिनका बर्थडे हो, ताकि हमको नहीं सबको भी दिखे कि जिसका बर्थडे है हम उसके लिए क्या भेज रहे हैं।
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
So the next topic for the next panel discussion is building future-ready teachers, integrating technology in teaching practices inside the classrooms.
Here we are going to talk about the teachers and the kind of methods or the techniques that teachers should have or they have had in the past to make it more useful.
I think the necessary skills that every teacher needs to have, I think first, they need to have that sort of a right mindset to learn. I think the mindset and the acceptance that, hey, this is a skill that I don't know and I need to learn and work on this, I think that's very, very important.
Right.
And secondly, I think will be to embrace new changes.
If we talk about the public schools across the country, the students, and they come from a low-income background at times, and they also have a limited access technology, right? And if we talk about integrating technology to their daily learning, a parent will definitely play a huge role because that is the access point for a student as well.
One of the primary things when we think about the parent community alongside with the teaching community is the community. And it's extremely important to understand that from what I've learned working with teachers and parents is that everyone needs a small group of people to convene and to really talk about the progress of children. And that may happen through parent-teacher meetings, that may happen through technology, but the need has to be really well defined for parents and teachers to start engaging with technology. And I think that's one of the major things. The second big learning we've had is the power of co-creation. So whatever programs we create alongside with governments or whether it's with parents, it's always co-created with a group of teachers and parents and kids actually. And that really ensures that we are speaking to the need of the people.
I think, there must be a balance when we look at, making parents aware and teachers aware. I think if we start prioritizing who has to get used to these skills first, I think teachers are the first ones because they are the enablers. And once teachers are enabled, then it comes to students. Teachers kind of transfer these skills, and then it's the parents.
Muskaan Dreams, in partnership with Global Digital Alliance, Digital Inclusion Summit 2024.
Well, the only thing constant in this world is change. So the first fire chat will deliberate and touch upon navigating the future readiness of children in the volatile tech world.
My question to you is basically what ideally we should do to build the future readiness among students, because there are more than 100 million government school children and they are not as lucky as we are, and we really need to build them and we need to prepare them for the future.
The interesting part of technology is technology has democratized access to skill. So skill एक ऐसी चीज़ है जो आप सीख सकते हो. Now what is important is will. The question is there will and hunger to learn? So one of the key parameters, and my submission to everyone out here is, as a teacher, and I go to a lot of schools, universities, I interact with a lot of students. One key parameter that I look is, what is the student passionate about? Passion as a word is overabused. सब लोग कहते हैं कि यार ये मेरा passion है. The day you start building your career out of your passion, magic happens.
The role of industry leadership in prioritizing digital inclusion and social innovation. Well, this is the topic for the next panel discussion.
My first question is from Mr. Panish Rao, that where do you see the role of, because you come from one of the largest tech organization, where do you see the role of corporate citizenship in bridging the digital divide where no one is left behind?
The pace with which the technology is changing also needs to be adopted by the schools, by the teachers, by the students to keep pace with the technology. Otherwise, the gadgets by themselves is not going to be of any help. The teachers, lots of people said the teachers need to be trained to use technology in their teaching. That has to happen. We need to create material for teaching. I believe that each one makes the material differently, and I believe that we should have a centralized team which makes the material so that the material that is used is the same across, so that the level of teaching also is the same, and make it very interesting and make funds available for maintenance of these gadgets. So that's what I would start with, saying that, you know, this is how probably you can bridge the divide and bring in digitization to education.
If I summarize what corporates can do, number one, focus. In my view, every corporate has to have a long-term strategy and decide what their focus is. Second, I would say passion. And what I mean by passion is find people who will make the difference into the CSR funds.
See, CSR as a law came a couple of years back in our country, right? There was no law which mandated to contribute to 2%. Companies started doing this. I think the question to ask is that before this law, whether the social work was not happening in this country, right? The companies which felt that they are socially responsible, they did that even without this 2%. Right, and therefore possibly I would like to de-link this conversation from a CSR conversation, because today there is a law, tomorrow there may not be a law. Today there is a 2% limit and then tomorrow there may be a 1% limit. Will you start investing into these initiatives? You know, I don't know the answer, right? And if the answer to that is yes, then there's a problem. That is a bigger problem we have, because then you are doing it from only a compliance point of view and you're not doing it from the heart, right?
I personally believe that funding is the least a corporate can do in this world. I think it has to go beyond it, and it's not a compliance requirement. It has to be very strategic and very object-oriented. So it's just not what you are actually bringing the technology to, but you are actually focusing on what are you doing with the technology as well. And I really find a combination of an NGO who is actually having a very clear vision of who and where, and we as a corporate, which will facilitate you as what and how, to become a greater positive impact to the world.
And after this, it is now time for the last fire chat for the day. Well, ladies and gentlemen, the second fire chat for the day is going to talk about revolutionizing the education through quality content.
How you see the role of creator as far as education and meaningful content is concerned?
हर तरीके से जिम्मेदारी ये बनती है कि क्यूरेट कैसे कंटेंट को करें, और यदि यंग जनरेशन कंटेंट कंज्यूम कर रहा है तो उस तक कैसी कंटेंट पहुँचे। इसमें दो चीज़ों पे काम मेरे हिसाब से होना चाहिए। ऑब्वियसली क्रिएटर्स का रोल कि वो किस तरीके का कंटेंट डालें. देयर शुड बी सम चेंजेस ऑल्सो ऑन द लेवल ऑफ पॉलिसी, राइट, so that what kind of content is reaching who, right? So this is the kind of thing that I think we should be focusing on, because control तो आप नहीं कर सकते कि कौन कैसा content बनाएगा. इंटरनेट और एल्गोरिदम एक बार ये समझती है कि आप किस तरीके का कंटेंट कंज्यूम करते हो और उसी तरीके का कंटेंट आपको देता है.
नाउ जब कंटेंट की बात करते हैं तो उसमें 3 पार्टीज आती है. नंबर 1 कंटेंट क्रिएटर्स जैसे हम लोग, नंबर 2 जो ऑडियंस है, नंबर 3 गवर्नमेंट. और कोई भी अगर नई चीज़ आती है मार्केट में, नया कंटेंट क्रिएटर आता है, तो
एकदम से उस पर ट्रस्ट नहीं करना चाहिए, क्योंकि हर एक चीज़ को मार्केट में अगर कुछ भी आ रहा है तो उसको टाइम चाहिए होता है अपने प्रूव करने के लिए। तो कोई भी ऐसा प्रोडक्ट है, कंटेंट क्रिएटर है, उसको टाइम दो एंड देन अपना रिसर्च करके तभी कोई डिसीजन लो। तो तब जाकर ये जो पूरा एनवायरनमेंट है सोशल मीडिया का, ये इंडिया के लिए बेनिफिशियल होगा। इंडिया की जो हम जीडीपी की बात करते हैं या ग्रोथ स्टोरी की बात करेंगे, तब जाकर ये सही मायनों में हमें हेल्प करेगा इम्प्रूव करने के लिए।
Thank you so much to all of them. Thank you so much. And after this, we come to a special address by Ms. Madhu Jain, Director, IIFL Foundation.
IIFL is a financial company, and IIFL Foundation is a CSR arm of this company. We are transforming the lives of poor and marginalized people by leveraging the power of education and by leveraging the power of technology. We have done lots of work, and we are doing work related to education, related to health, and related to livelihood. So our digital inclusion project, it has been a journey of impact, innovation, and empowerment in the heart of Rajasthan. Thank you so much.
For us, this particular conference in a number of ways opened up vistas to collaborate, learn from many of the practitioners there, and also understand the larger social realities in the whole digital inclusion space for all of us.
It's been an amazing session today here with Muskaan Dreams, announcing their partnership with the Global Digital Alliance. Congratulations to Muskaan Dreams team for taking the digital inclusion forward.
Muskaan Dreams, in partnership with Global Digital Alliance, Digital Inclusion Summit 2024.